ASB Bank, one step ahead and bringing you Nightline.
Tonight on Nightline, the changing of the guard, a historic handover as Iraq has its sovereignty restored.
Better prosperity, looking forward, better future. That's all the Iraq is waiting for.
Wellington police hunt a man behind a string of home invasions. A shock report from the UN claims New Zealand has one of the world's worst amphetamine habits. And why William H. Macy's portrayal of the cooler is really not very cool at all.
She loves me, Shelley. She told me last night, Natalie.
This is Nightline with Carolyn Robinson.
Kia ora, good evening. It came sooner than expected, but tonight's sovereignty has been restored to Iraq. The US-led coalition handed over power to an interim Iraqi government at a low-key ceremony in Baghdad this afternoon, ending a 14-month occupation. The surprise move comes in an attempt to outfox those behind a massive surge in violence meant to destabilise the country.
In stark contrast to the extravagant ceremonies of Saddam Hussein, tonight there were no crowds and no fanfare. Probably the safest way to sovereignty for a nation haunted by years of atrocities and ongoing violence.
I'll read the letter.
US Administrator Paul Bremer read the legal document contained in a black folder to an Iraqi judge, handing over power to the Iraqi people, even managing a joke.
We welcome Iraq's steps to take its rightful place of equality and honor among the free nations of the world. Sincerely, L. Paul Bremer, ex-administrator of the Coalition of Ministers of Authority.
Far from the quiet applause from deep within the heavily guarded green zone, it's clear what the vast majority of Iraqis want that simple document to bring with it.
Better prosperity, looking forward, better future. That's all the Iraq is waiting for.
But Iraqis may have to wait. In the past 4 days, the countdown to the handover has brought with it increased violence across the country. That surge in car bombings and attacks on coalition forces appears to have forced the authorities into transferring power early. And it's unclear whether tonight's handover will stop the momentum or inflame the insurgents.
Lors de notre dernier sommet,
the handover was announced at the first meeting of the 17th NATO summit, being held in Istanbul. The 26 alliance leaders are expected to form a united front, since the war to topple Saddam Hussein opened up deep divisions among the allies. First on the agenda, how to respond to a request from Iraqi interim Prime Minister Iyad Allawi for aid in training Iraq's armed forces. The answer will be central to stabilising Iraq and providing a much-longed-for peace. Tania Page, 3 News.
Vivian Walt is Time magazine's correspondent in Baghdad. I spoke to her a short time ago and I asked her what the mood is in Baghdad tonight.
So people are fairly taken by surprise, a little bit confused. One man I spoke to said, what is the new government going to do? It's got to have a magic wand to fix all the problems in this country. I think people are very much fairly low-key about this affair. There's absolutely none of the kind of pomp and ceremony that you would imagine with the handover to sovereignty.
Now, everyone's been caught unaware by this sudden move forward, and we're told that it's to avoid an upsurge in violence. What are the streets of Iraq like tonight? Is there a heightened presence or heightened security out on the streets?
There has been for several days, Carolyn, and in fact, I'm actually standing talking to you inside a police station about a mile from my hotel, and I'm in fact unable to return to my hotel because the hotel compound has been totally sealed off by both American soldiers and also Iraqi police and security. They are clearly bracing for some big attack on a high-profile target as soon as people, generally in the country realize that sovereignty has transferred.
Now, this is certainly a historic day for Iraqis. How are ordinary Iraqis receiving the news?
I think, there is sort of maybe a bit of a sense of relief. There was always some niggling suspicion among many Iraqis that this actually wasn't going to take place, and in the usual kind of conspiratorial mood of Iraq, many people were saying it's just a trick, the Americans are going to stay here forever. Clearly they are not, and in that sense, I think people can now begin to think about their future. But, for example, I was just speaking to the head of this police station that I'm standing in the middle of, and he was saying, you want to know what this new country is going to be like? We just have no idea. You've got to come back in 6 months and ask that question again.
Finally, Vivian, what is the status of Saddam Hussein tonight?
There is some word that Saddam is actually going to be transferred into legal custody of the Iraqis sometime today. It's fairly early here. It's only 2:30 in the afternoon. There's several hours to go. But this would make some sense. The Americans are leaving. Ambassador Bremer is leaving today. And there is some sense in transferring, at least on paper, Saddam into Iraqi custody. This, of course, would be regarded by many Iraqis as a victory. They've been saying from the very beginning that he is theirs and that they don't want him spirited off to Guantanamo Bay or any such place. So in that sense, I think that will be seen as a move into the future, Carolyn.
Vivian Walt reporting from Baghdad. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are unconfirmed reports that al-Qaeda ally Abu Musab al-Zarqawi has been captured in Iraq. He's accused of masterminding a string of suicide bombings and is believed to be connected to a number of hostage takings. The US calls him their most wanted man in Iraq, and he has a $17 million bounty on him. Reports suggest he's been taken near the town of Hila. At the NATO summit in Turkey, protesters have clashed with police outside the meeting venue. Police fired tear gas and water cannons at the protesters, who responded with firebombs and stones. The violence broke out near a barricaded conference centre in the centre of Istanbul, where the NATO leaders are meeting to discuss Iraq. Police have detonated several suspicious parcels. Several people are injured. A roadside bomb has killed a British soldier and wounded 2 others in the southern Iraqi city of Basra, where 61 New Zealand troops are also based. And for the first time, an Australian aircraft has been shot at, while Australian troops have also come under mortar attack. The ground assault came during a training session between Australian soldiers and Iraqi army recruits. 5 Iraqi trainees were injured, 2 of them seriously. Militants also hit an Australian transport plane, killing an American civilian. In other developments, there are more hostages, a US Marine lured from his base, and a Pakistani driver working for American contractors. Both have been threatened with beheading. Back here now, and Wellington police are tonight hunting for a man believed to be behind a series of home invasions at the weekend. 4 Wellington women, including an 82-year-old, were attacked and robbed at knife point in separate incidents. This is the man police think is responsible for the attacks on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. He was caught on security camera after using a money card taken during one of the attacks. 15 detectives are hunting the man, who they say is becoming increasingly violent. The attacks took place in Johnsonville, Parramatta and Kandala. 2 victims needed medical attention. All are receiving counselling. Police have set up a hotline for any information. It's 0800 tip-off. That's 0800 847 633. A new United Nations report on illicit drugs shows New Zealand has one of the highest rates of amphetamine use in the world. According to the report, 3.4% of New Zealanders have used the drug, a figure only topped by Australia and Thailand.
In the last 5 years, use of P, or pure methamphetamine, has exploded in New Zealand. Most users smoke it, but drug counsellors say as more people get hooked on it, they're looking for a quicker way to get a fix.
Some of the anecdotal stuff that people are looking at does indicate that more amphetamine users are beginning to inject their drugs, and that's not safe.
And statistics show it's a growing problem. A new report by the UN shows 3.4% of New Zealanders have used amphetamine, 3rd highest in the world behind only Australia on 4% and Thailand on 5.6%.
It doesn't mean that New Zealand is the drug capital of the world, though. What it does highlight is that amphetamines are an available drug in New Zealand. In other countries, it's cocaine and heroin which are more available.
Another key finding of the report is that New Zealand is in the top 5 countries for use of the party drug ecstasy. And it notes that in recent years there's been a shift from that to speed and P, drugs more likely to cause serious mental health problems. It was the same drug that Wairarapa man Stephen Williams was on when he murdered his stepdaughter Coral Burrows a year ago. Simon Beattie, 3 News.
An Auckland high school teacher is on trial for allegedly supplying methamphetamine to teenagers. David Arthur, a former teacher at Takapuna Grammar, is also facing a charge of perverting the course of justice. It's alleged he gave methamphetamine to several teenagers at least 6 times. The trial is set down for 4 days. A Singaporean woman has been crowned the world's fastest texter. 23-year-old Kimberly Yeo thumbed 26 words in 43.24 seconds into her phone. That's 1 word in under 2 seconds. She easily beat a world record of 67 seconds set last year. A group of Christchurch high school boys have come up with an invention that many will welcome. Called StopCom, it's a device that can hunt out and address those frequently irritating cell phones.
Meet the managing directors of StopCom, the company that's bringing the cell tracker device to schools, prisons and aircraft near you. The device can detect cell phone activity in a 30-metre radius, allowing teachers, aircraft cabin crew, prison guards or movie ushers to identify potential disruptions. Developed by a group of 5 Christchurch senior high school students, the idea was born from typical teenage discussion.
And other schools as well, talking to other friends that they do use their cell phone in classrooms and not always listening to the teachers.
The device will also give a helping hand to teachers.
It is an issue and there's a great potential for cheating in exams and text messaging information and that sort of thing.
The students run StopCom like all budding entrepreneurs, from developing the product from scratch through to its development and marketing.
There's so many things beyond your control that you can't handle, and they just pop up at the worst times. But a business, the whole part of being in business is learning to cope with them.
Similar imported products are available, but they're several times the cell tracker's $40 price tag. Movie theatre managers have had enough of cell phones.
People sort of forget that they're even there now. They've become such a common occurrence to have it in your handbag.
The Cell Seeker was launched in Christchurch this afternoon. The company has already had interest from as far afield as Australia. Juanita Hampton, 3 News.
Still to come on Nightline, Air New Zealand says farewell to first class, but hello to some high-class improvements. You're back with Nightline. A Singapore Airlines plane has set off on the world's longest non-stop commercial flight tonight. It's an 18-hour trip by ultra-long-range aircraft between Singapore and New York. The 16,500 kilometre journey over the Arctic will shave 4 hours of an existing service. Passengers on the flight had a suitably lavish send-off with champagne and a buffet spread. Well, the days of first-class travel will soon be over on Air New Zealand. The airline is dropping the service in favour of a 3-class system of business, premium economy and economy. And the aircraft will look different too. The long-haul fleet of 747s and these soon-to-arrive 777s will have a complete refit, including business-class seats that lie completely flat and slimline seats with entertainment systems in economy. The upgrade will cost $160 million. Well, Iraq is not the only world crisis coming to a head. Sudan is at the point of catastrophe. The long war between the country's Arab and African descendants has driven a massive exodus of refugees across the border into neighbouring Chad. Weakened by thirst and hunger, they're still not safe from the skirmishes, even there.
There's a no-man's land between the antagonists, but the border between Sudan and Chad is like an everyman's piece of sand. Today we were able to cross over into Sudan while Sudanese soldiers watched us through binoculars from a hill. It was quiet on the border today, but it has been a dangerous place. This policeman told us there'd been many attacks on refugees here by Arab Sudanese who don't believe Africans in Sudan have the same rights as them. While the river that forms the border was dry, water was being distributed to refugees in a camp near Bahai. But some water and food was going to Sudanese rebels posing as displaced people.
We don't know exactly, it's just allegation, but we suppose we have some people across the border to come here and try to receive some food, but it's very difficult to prove it, so we don't know exactly if they come, how many people are there.
Border skirmishes by Sudanese militia against refugees continue, but for most of these people, it's part of life in Central Africa. In this part of the world, you don't have to travel far to find evidence of war. It's in the face of the land and in the souls of the people who've been through coups, rebellions and civil war. And it leaves you with the distinct feeling that it could and probably will happen again. Bob McNeil, Chad, 3 News.
An unusual exhibit documenting the misdeeds of former Israeli soldiers went on show in Israel today. The soldiers admit on videotape that they harassed and abused Palestinians in the West Bank city of Hebron. They say the military is trying to silence them.
The photo shows some of the stark reality of life in the Palestinian West Bank. A 15-year-old boy sits handcuffed to a chair while Israeli soldiers take a break. A man on the roof of his home, framed in the crosshairs of a soldier's rifle. Children play acting, lining up to be searched, just like the grown-ups. The pictures were taken by Israeli soldiers in Hebron, where the army protects about 500 Jewish settlers living amid 130,000 Palestinians. It's a volatile mix, with frequent and violent clashes sparked by each side.
You become numb towards everything. You can't treat the Palestinians as humans. You can't know between good and bad inside of this madness.
Jonathan Boimfeld organized the show, which includes videotaped statements from former soldiers. One said they would fire tear gas into crowds just to see the reaction. Boimfeld said the exhibit sends a message to Israelis.
This is what I did under your orders, under your name. This is what the Israeli society is doing.
At first, the Army said it had no objections to this exhibit. Then, after it had been open nearly 3 weeks, military police confiscated part of the display and called the organizers in for questioning. The Army said it holds soldiers to high moral standards and wants to know if Boimfeld and the others broke any rules in Hebron. Boimfeld sees another motive.
This is the first time soldiers are talking, and they don't want this to happen.
Some who've seen the exhibit called it eye-opening, including this soldier's mother.
As bad as I felt about the occupation before as an Israeli citizen, now seeing it as a mother, it's awful.
It's a daily routine for both Palestinians and the Israelis sent to deal with them.
After the break on Nightline, a cooler sort of loser, the big screen gamble from William H. Macy.
Do you know how I do that?
Listen, I know there's a lot of stuff that happens in casinos all the time.
I do it by being myself.
I have never met anyone who was so down on themselves.
He's a loser.
Welcome back. Spider-Man, the sequel, has opened in New Zealand, and for 2 Auckland men, life, sadly, doesn't get any more exciting than this. That's because Jason Allen and Adrian Smith are self-confessed Spidey groupies.
So, I got the Spider-Man blankie.
They're grown men, but when it comes to their hero, they're cocooned in a time web. Jason Allen and Adrian Smith have been Spider-Man fans their whole lives. They take their devotion to the extreme.
One hell of a Spider-Man bathroom.
But why Spidey? After all, he's a 40-year-old hero whose biggest claim to fame is web slinging.
He inspires me every day to walk like water and to think about other people, and you know, he's a good role model, even though he doesn't really exist. I mean, Nelson Mandela's a pretty damn good role model, but he doesn't look as good flying through the air, pulling his leg up there, you know, backwards flips, you know.
He's this geek who a lot of people
Revenge of the Nerds
can relate to. Yeah, you can all have that feeling of like not being able to get the girl, or the one who's always somehow missing out on the party or has to sacrifice everything, and like everyone gets those feelings.
Last night, the pair were among the first in the world to see Spider-Man 2 at the New Zealand premiere, and the big screen version lived up to their high expectations.
All the web-slinging, gravity-defying action was fulfilled in the first and second one.
This dynamic duo use Spidey in their everyday lives, Allen in his work as a photographer and Smith as a dancer. Their obsession has left their friends and family a little confused, especially their mums.
I think she was slightly perturbed when I asked for a Spider-Man multi-maneuverable 67 points of articulation, a little model for Christmas.
I'm Spider-Man. No more.
Belinda Henley, 3 News.
Right, the fictional world of Narnia has descended on West Auckland, with filming now underway on the children's fantasy tale, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Today, Nightline checked out one of the largest sets, a life-size 1940s train station being constructed in West Auckland. The film will be shot for the next 20 weeks around the country. It's scheduled for worldwide release at Christmas time next year. Well, now to a movie where bad luck is a gift. Called The Cooler, it's set in a casino and stars William H. Macy as someone who can end a winning streak just by standing at the same table.
This is one of your coolers? He's the best. Better luck next time.
Bernie Lute's vice is gambling, only he's not very good at it. He owes a lot of money to a Las Vegas casino, and so to pay off his debt, he's hired as a cooler. A cooler being someone whose luck is so bad, all he needs to do is stand next to a winning punter to make them start losing.
Do you know how I do that?
Listen, I know there's a lot of stuff that happens in casinos all the time.
I do it by being myself. People get next to me, their luck turns. It's always been that way.
Bernie's almost paid the money off in full by making people lose so much when he falls in love with a casino worker played by Maria Bello. Suddenly, his luck turns.
We're down almost $1 million out there. Doesn't that seem strange to you? I guess I'm having an off day. No. You don't have off days, Lutz. Your luck incarnate. What's wrong? You're coming down with something? You have this look about you. No. As a matter of fact, I've never been better.
Give it a shot.
What's that supposed to mean? She loves me, Shelley. She told me last night, Natalie.
In Reno, Nevada, we found a hotel and casino that were about to be gutted and redone. So we rented it in the meantime. That's why it has such magnificent production values for no money. So I lived on the 31st floor, and we shot on the 4th floor. And I would sometimes go for a week without seeing daylight.
Macy is your quintessential down and outer. Bello's performance should get her noticed, but it's the underrated Alec Baldwin as the Shangri-La casino boss who's the real star.
Why don't you just announce it to the whole fucking joint while you're at it?
It's a mixture of dark and light, with the fluffiest bits left for the end.
I couldn't even remember what it was like to have a woman's hands on me.
Nikki Omer, 3 News.
After the break, the Sky stuff coming your way tomorrow. Welcome back. Time to check up on Tuesday's weather details now, and it'll be a wet day for many of us. Rain spreads over the top half of the North Island, the heaviest falls in eastern spots. A very soggy day's on the way for the mainland's west and south, with a heavy rain warning issued for Fiordland.
Wasting away on the streets of Philadelphia. Till my legs felt like stone. I heard the voices of friends vanished and gone. At night I could hear the blood in my veins, just as black and whispering as the rain on the streets of Philadelphia.
And that is Monday's edition of Nightline. Thanks for staying up with us. Howard Dobson is back and he has Sports Tonight next. Have a great Tuesday. Good night.
Ain't no angel gonna greet me. It's just you and I, my friend. And my clothes don't fit me no more.
ASB Bank, one step ahead. Proudly brought you Nightline.
On Sports Tonight, it's number 1 for the under-21s, a World Cup repeat for the New Zealand Colts. Check it out. 2 goals from a Liverpool striker books the Czech Republic a Euro 2004 semi. And a Wimbledon favourite bows out. Goran Ivanisevic's greatest hits. Good evening, I'm Howard Dobson, leading Sports Tonight. New Zealand Rugby has some cult heroes after the under-21s retained their world title this morning in Scotland. The defending champs out-muscled Ireland by 47-19, with Auckland winger Tony Kunwa-Ayu bagging 3 of New Zealand's 6 tries.
They've been dubbed the Baby Blacks at this tournament, but the New Zealand team's stacked with experienced and hardened professionals. One player was even part of the All Blacks World Cup squad. captain Ben Artinga, who put another Super 12 player wing Tony Kunwayu in for the first of his 3 tries. Unlike the New Zealanders, the Irish are all amateurs, and the difference showed. But Ireland had the spirit of all teams from the Emerald Isle, a strong forward drive producing a try for number 8 James Heaslip and clipping the half-time deficit to 25-11. It wasn't a day for running rugby, but that didn't stop the New Zealanders. A looping Luke McAllister pass giving Kunwayu his hat-trick. The Irish cause wasn't helped by a strike on prop Ben Franks that earned a green shirt the yellow card. The New Zealand pack then got among the try scoring. Replacement hooker Te Paulo burrowing over from a forward drive. McAllister kicked 4 conversions and 3 penalties for a personal haul of 17 points. The Irish played hard right to the end, but were well beaten 47-19. Everybody knew the best team had won the tournament. The trick now is to transfer that World Cup winning feeling to the All Blacks. Michael Turner, Sports Tonight.
The for sale sign isn't up outside the Warriors just yet, but they already have an interested buyer. Auckland Rugby League's considering making an offer to buy back the club from current owner Eric Watson. And former Kiwi coach Graham Lowe says they have the money and, more importantly, they have the chemistry to stop the Warriors from imploding.
It's a sight Warriors fans are sick of. Another loss, their 11th of the season.
There's a flashing.
But there could be a white knight on the horizon.
But I think the one area that I believe could possibly save the club is the Auckland Rugby League. The Auckland Rugby League is now in a position financially to actually try and buy the club back off Eric Watson.
Former Kiwi coach Graham Lowe says financially the club is healthy.
But they are definitely lacking football experience when it comes to dealing with players, when it comes to man management. I mean, you've got Ali Laatiti, possibly the best player that we've seen out of New Zealand for the last 4 or 5 years, being shown the door. Now they're going to go all out looking for new players.
The Auckland Rugby League used to own the Warriors but had to sell when their finances ran low. However, the development of Carlaw Park will give them a guaranteed income, and long-term the ARL wants to be back in partnership with the NRL club. Chairman Cameron McGregor says the ARL sees itself as part of the Warriors' future. Almost all of the Warriors' development are Auckland players, so they need Auckland League for development, while the Auckland League need the Warriors as a flagship.
And that would give the game back to the people. It would give the game back to rugby league experienced people. And if they organise the right setup, I think the thing could grow again.
It's not known if owner Eric Watson wants to sell the club, but the ARL are planning to get in touch to discuss how they can get back into the future of the Warriors. Emma Keeling, Sports Tonight.
And on the field, round 16 of the NRL and the Brisbane Broncos were upset at home, while Thanksgiving is over for the Rabbitohs. Now, after 2 wins, caretaker coach Arthur Katanis, well, it's all turned a bit sour as South got badly burnt by the St George Dragons.
South Sydney turned back the clock at the SCG, but not the scoreboard, as Mark Riddell put Gasnier away. Mark Gasnier, again the star of St George Illawarra, smashed up the Rabbits in close and out wide to score 6 times in a sensational first half.
Hornby, he scores at the Randwick end.
Hornby on hand to pick up a double for the Dragons. Down 32-0, Souths did show some spirit as little half Joe Williams scored 1 and set up a second.
Lee Hookey.
The Dragons lost Lance Thompson to a serious ankle injury, but still had far too much class. They scored 10 tries to 2 as they cruised past 50.
Withers has got support, and away goes Cooper.
One-way traffic early in Brisbane too, but not for the locals.
And what a step on Carmichael Hunt.
Simon Wolford denied their second by the video ref, but the skipper didn't have to wait long to make amends.
Wolford will get there this time.
Just when the Raiders looked in control, Brisbane came to life through youngster Carmichael Hunt.
Reaches out to score a try.
A great tackle from Terry Martin stopped a Tony Carroll try before they tied it up off a Lockyer kick.
They're chasing. De Beer is there.
But with the match in the balance, Mark McClendon's strip created the winning try. and the loss may come at a heavy price, with Tony Carroll on report for use of the forearm, as not once but twice he took a dislike to Mark McClendon late in the match.
It was another crazy weekend of motorsports. Kiwi Scott Dixon finished 8th in the latest round of the Indy Racing League. NASCAR was another panel beater's delight. There was the gravel rash in the Dutch MotoGP and heartbreak and headaches for a local in the Danish Speedway Grand Prix.
First up for our first off of the night, and we're at the Danish Grand Prix for round 10 of the World Speedway Champs. Local hero and current world champion Nicky Pedersen parts company with his machine in the final after jousting with another rider. Pedersen wasn't hurt in the crash, and some reckon his fall was his comeuppance, because he'd been involved in other niggly incidents throughout the event. For the record, Aussie rider Jason Crump won the round, his 10th Grand Prix title. We stick with speed, but not the speedway, for our second off of the night. It's a bird's eye view at the Dutch Grand Prix as Alex Barros lines up for a worm's eye view. The Brazilian's just zipped into the lead, only to zap out of the race because he had too much zip going on, and right in the home straight in front of all those people. The best move of the day came seconds from the finish as world champ Valentino Rossi sneaks under Spanish rival Sete Gerbino to take the lead and the checkered flag. While Gerbino had obviously lost his fizz, third place getter Marco Melandri hadn't, as he turned his bubbles on the podium girls. There was a touch of culture, but it was mainly all smoke and rear-view mirrors as NASCAR hopped onto a road circuit in Northern California. Sterling Marlin might have the flashest name in NASCAR, but he's got the worst luck as he gets tapped from behind and spins out while the other guy drives right on by. Casey Kahn spun himself out later in the race, doing away with the need for rear-view mirrors. But looking straight ahead at the checkered flag for his 67th career win was Jeff Gordon in car number 24. My call, Sports Tonight.
Still to come on Sports Tonight, the Czechs bounce the Danes out of Euro 2004. Hen Mania extends to the second week of Wimbledon. And a tribute to a Croatian sensation who bows out for good. Welcome back to Sports Tonight. Sean Summerfield has more from the Rally of Turkey shortly. Well, in soccer, the Czech Republic outclassed Denmark 3-0 today to reach the semi-finals of Euro 2004. Liverpool striker Milan Baros scored twice within 3 minutes to become the leading goal scorer of the championship so far.
If they wanted incentive, they had it. As the Czech Republic and Denmark headed out for their quarter-final clash, they did so in the knowledge that only the unfancied Greek stood between the winner and the final. With form, within 4 minutes, Poborski's cross set up Jan Koller for the first goal of the game. Final.
Tennis, Hen Mania continues to rule at Wimbledon. Tim Henman fans made the most of People's Sunday when punters have to queue seemingly forever to get tickets. And after Pommy despair against the All Blacks, the West Indian cricketers, not to mention Beck's boys at Euro 2004, Henman has put smiles back on English faces.
It was like a scene from the January sales. Hours standing around wondering if you're going to get that all-important bargain. In this case, it was Roger Federer, the defending champion, not so much a three-piece suite than a three-set victory over Thomas Johansson. But for the majority of the fans, Federer was merely the warm-up act. Like the first two rounds, though, Henman was broken in the first set, and he could almost hear them say that never in a month of People's Sundays would he really be a contender for Wimbledon. But a visit from the physio for Hicham Aratsi saw Henman's hopes rise, along with the crowd, and a shot to win the first set tiebreak that the previous winner on centre court would have been proud of. 2 sets up and the people were happy, but they couldn't leave without having seen a true Henman experience. Aratsi back in it to win the third. But the Moroccan who had beaten Henman in their last 2 encounters capitulated in the fourth, which is where Henman is off to now for a 9th year in a row.
You know, I wanted to get off to a good start, having been down a break, and it was a good tie-break to pull it out with the topspin log on set point, and it's difficult. It's very swirly out there, and I think the quality of the tennis perhaps wasn't always great, but you've got to find a way to get through those matches, and you can certainly lose the tournament in the first week, but you can't win it.
Tomorrow he'll meet last year's finalist Mark Philippoussis in round 4. The Australian lost to Henman at the French Open, but today he beat Fernando Gonzalez with ease.
And in the women's draw, Serena's made sure the Williams name remains at Wimbledon by easily advancing to the 4th round. The top seed and defending champion still hasn't dropped a set at the tournament. Today she needed just 58 minutes to beat Spain's Maguire Serna in straight sets 6-4, 6-love. And 7 seed Jennifer Capriati's also through after beating Nathalie Deschy of France. Capriati took the first set 7-5, then powered through the second 6-1 to book her place in the last 16. Well, that's almost our show for tonight. Coming up next, the Rally of Turkey with Sean Summerfield. Now, tomorrow, we feature the plays of the weekend and more from Wimbledon. And speaking of Wimbledon, 4-time finalist and 2001 champion Goran Ivanisevic has finally called it quits after 15 years on the Pro Tour. So tonight, we leave you with some of the crazy Croats' greatest hits. I'm Howard Dobson. Good night, everyone.
Happy and sad, I'm sad that I have to leave, but I'm happy that it's no more practicing, no more questions from you guys,